Welcome to our Dhamma discussion today. I started this short series of Dhamma discussions on the request of a gentleman who lives in Pennsylvania, USA. And the idea is to teach the basics in Buddha Dhamma. And this series will be like a stepping stone to our main series, the path to Sotapanna or Sovan Marga, which we have done 3 series so far since April 2021. And then we gave a short summer break. After the summer break, we will start the 4th series in the first week of October. Until then, we will continue this series. So as I said earlier in this series, the main intention is to teach the basics of Pure Buddha Dhamma and answer the questions that people have. So I will deliver the sermon for 1 hour and then give you 1 hour or even longer if necessary to ask any questions. Please feel free to ask any question. Now today's sermon I especially dedicate to Mr. Akila Galage, who unfortunately passed away at the age of 32. In fact, he passed away on 11th August and his birthday was 16th August. He became 33. He stayed at our vihara for 2 years and left only 4 months ago. And as I always do before I start the sermon, I say a few things about the sermon. Now, all the Dhamma points that I am explaining in my sermons, I have taken from the oldest Tripitaka in the world, which is kept at the British Library in London. This Tripitaka is over 2,100 years old and it's been written in Magadhi language using the Sinhala alphabet. Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra is written on gold leaves. Mahasatara Satipatthana Sutra is written on copper leaves, and the other sutras are written on Ola leaves. Now, this Tripitaka and all the other Tripitakas have substantial differences. Let me give you one example. Before I read this old Tripitaka, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra in the old Tripitaka, I read the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra in 4 other Tripitakas. We have 2 Pali Sinhala Tripitakas in Sri Lanka. I read the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra in those 2. And also there are 2 English Tripitakas that I have read. One is written by Dr. Ray Davies, and the other one is written by Bhikkhu Bodhi and Bhikkhu Jnana Bodhi. Ray Davies was an Englishman, and Bhikkhu Bodhi and Bhikkhu Jnana Bodhi are American monks. Bhikkhu Bodhi has lived in Sri Lanka for 24 years. He was ordained in Sri Lanka. So all these Tripitakas are less than 200 years old. And the old Tripitaka that we have in the British Library is over 2,100 years old. And in the new Tripitakas, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra is given only 3.5 pages. In the old Tripitaka is 50 pages. So you can see the difference, 3.5 pages to 50 pages. The 3.5 pages is only the summary. The same summary appears in the old Tripitaka also. Then the new Tripitakas don't have the details of the summary, but in the old Tripitaka, there are 46.5 pages of details. So that's why there are major differences in Dhamma. That's why people are finding it difficult to become Sotapanna by reading the old Tripitakas, unless they are very, very extremely wise and they fall into the top category of wisest people, Patitanna. It's not easy to become Sotapanna using the old Tripitakas because the necessary information is not there. There are substantial differences. The details are given only in this old Tripitaka, which is kept at the British Library. And I explain everything from there. In the Sotapanna series, I used the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra and the Sotapanna Sutra from that old Tripitaka to explain the path to Sotapanna, the Sovan Marga. So obviously, there will be differences in what you have heard already and what I am explaining to you in certain Dhamma points. If that is the case, don't develop anger, resentment, or arguments against it. Just practice the principle that Lord Buddha explained in Kalama Sutra. In Kalama Sutra, Lord Buddha said, don't either believe or disbelieve what I say. Just listen to what I am saying, take this home, and go through it several times, analyze it using your intelligence and wisdom. And at the end of the day, if you think it's right, you take it, make use of it, practice it, and you will get results very quickly. On the other hand, if you think it's wrong, just leave it out and carry on with whatever you were doing before, but don't develop anger, resentment, or arguments against it. So I make the same request from everyone before I start any sermon. Right. Now, I will deliver the sermon for 1 hour and then give you 1 hour or more to ask any questions. We'll start with observing Panchasila. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We'll recite these gathas together. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinnadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapama dattana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now, as I said earlier, in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, in the old Tripitaka, that explains the Nibbana Marga from the beginning to the end in very clear and precise terms. Now, in order to understand the meanings of those explanations, one has to have a clear understanding of certain Magadi words that Lord Buddha has explained, the Lord Buddha has used in explaining Dhamma. Now, let me give you a few examples. In Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, the first noble truth and the second noble truth, Lord Buddha, in the summary, Lord Buddha says, Idanko panabhikkhave dukkhang arya satchang. Jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha, vyadipi dukkha, maranampi dukkha. Soka parideva dukkha domanassa upayasa api dukkha. Pi yehi vippayogo dukkho. Appi yehi sampayogo dukkho. Yampi itsang nalabati tampi dukkhang. Sankittena pancha upadana skandha dukkha. Then the second noble truth he says, Idanko panabhikkhave dukkha samudayo arya satcha. Yayam tanha pono bhavika nandiraga sahagata tatra tatrabhinandani sayyatidam kamatanha bhavatanha vibhavatanha. Now, these are the two most important noble truths. Then he explains the noble truth of suffering. The first one, the second one is noble truth of the reason for suffering. Now, if you just repeat, explain this, if you just say these actually they are poems. If you say these poems to someone, it's impossible to make any sense of it. Because the details are not there. It's only a summary. Lord Buddha had a habit of when he delivers a long sutra, like Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, Karniya Metta Sutra, Mangala Sutra, Ratana Sutra. First, he gave the summary in a poem. They are called Patibhana Kavi. In Sri Lanka, those days, there were 4 types of poems. The 4th one was called Patibhana Kavi. So this is in the Patibhana Kavi. This is a poem. The summary that's given in a poem. So this summary is about 2 pages. Similarly, if you take the Karani Metta Sutra, some people call it Metta Sutra, or Mangala Sutra, or Ratana Sutra, it's just a summary. Now some monks are chanting them. There's nothing wrong with chanting, but they are not, for the intention of them is not chanting. They have to be learned and practiced. It's given in a summary because the details are very, very long, and it's difficult for a person, average person, to remember all those details. But if you give a poem, it's easier to, learn the poem by heart and then remember the most important points and then refer them to the details. So similarly, in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, the new Tripitakas that have been written down during the past 250 years or 200 years or so, they only have the summary, the poem, and the details are given in the old Tripitaka. So to understand these details, if one can understand details, comprehend it, and practice it correctly, becoming Sotapanna is not difficult at all. Anyone can become Sotapanna, almost anyone. So Lord Buddha said, people who listen to Dhamma, who are interested in becoming Sotapanna, he divided them into 4 categories: Utkatitanna, Vipatitanna, Neya, and Padaparama. Utkatitanna people are the wisest people. They have a very high level of wisdom due to their past good karma, and they can comprehend Dhamma very quickly. People like Sariputta Maharattero and Moggallana Maharattero, and then Sopaka, Sunita, Rahula, Visakha. Those were the people who fall into the highest category of people with wisdom. They were called Utkatitanna. The moment they hear Dhamma, they begin to understand it. And within a short time, 1 hour or 2, listening to Dhamma, they can become Sotapanna. But they are few and far between these days. I would say they are less than 1%. Then the 4th category is called Padaparama. And Lord Buddha said they can become Sotapanna within 7 years, but they will take a longer time. Within 7 years, when we say within 7 years, it could be 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, maximum of 7 years, even with people with the lowest level of intelligence and wisdom. Padaparama people who fall into the 4th category, they also can become Sotapanna with the maximum of 7 years. So they are also less than 1%, very small percentage. More than 98% fall into the 2 middle categories. The second category, Lord Buddha called it Vipatitanna, and out of that 98%, about half are Vipatitanna. They will become Sotapanna, provided they learn the path correctly and practice it correctly. They will become Sotapanna within 7 weeks. And the third category, Neya, those people will become Sotapanna within 7 months. So more than 99% of the people can become Sotapanna within 7 months, provided they learn the correct Dhamma, correct pure Buddha Dhamma as given in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, with the correct meanings, and practice it correctly. It's all given in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. They don't have to go all over the Tripitaka learning so many sutras, learning Abhidhamma and learning Vipassana meditation, the advanced meditation. None of them are required to become Sotapanna. All one has to do is comprehend the summary, the information, the Dhamma that Lord Buddha has explained in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, comprehend it, and then practice it. Anyone can do it, believe me. It's not difficult. If anyone tells you, any preacher tells you that it's not possible to become Sotapanna, that's because they don't know how to do it. It is there, but for some reason, they haven't found the correct way. There are very senior monks in the world I know who say it's not possible to become Sotapanna. Unfortunately, they haven't learned it. They haven't come across the correct way. That's the problem. There are some monks with very good sila. Their discipline is very, very good. But for some reason, they haven't come across correct Dhamma. And they are not able to become Sotapanna. So after some time, they try and try and try. And then they say, oh, I'm a bodhisattva, that's why I can't become Sotapanna. Maybe it's a bodhisattva. Bodhisattvas do a lot of work, lot of sacrifices. You can identify a bodhisattva. The best example is Bodhisattva Bharatratna Baba Sahib Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Indian Buddhists know the amount of sacrifices he has made in his life. He has sacrificed his entire life to serve the others. Those are the characters of a bodhisattva. Lord Jesus Christ, he sacrificed his entire life to serve the people. And our Gautama Bodhisattva, during his previous lives, there are many, many lives. He sacrificed his entire life to serve the others. Those are the characters of a bodhisattva. So coming back to the main point, we are learning these important Dhamma words. The reason that I explained, it's very, very important to learn the correct meanings of this. Otherwise, you will not learn the correct Dhamma and you will not be able to practice the correct Dhamma in the correct way. And as a result of that, people cannot become Sotapanna. Otherwise, if they learn the correct way and practice it the correct way, everyone can become Sotapanna. More than 99% can become Sotapanna within 7 months. Believe me, Lord Buddha has said that. And only less than 1% will take up to a maximum of 7 years. Even they can become Sotapanna within 7 years. I'm sure there isn't anyone here in this group, falling into the last category. So all of you can become Sotapanna within the maximum of 7 months. All you have to do is learn correct Dhamma and practice in the correct way. And that's what we teach in the Sotapanna series. So far, we have done 3 series, and the 4th one, I intend to do it in little more detail so that people can listen to that Dhamma, comprehend it, practice it, and become Sotapanna. So last time, we discussed some important Dhamma words very briefly, and I want to elaborate on that because these are very, very important. The terms that we discussed are wholesome deeds, or let's say wholesome thoughts, wholesome deeds, and wholesome qualities. Wholesome deeds. Now, in Lord Buddha's language, in Magadhi language, he called them kusala karma. Wholesome means kusal. Wholesome deeds, he called them kusala karma. Then the opposite of that is unwholesome. Unwholesome, again, we have unwholesome thoughts. We start with the thought, then it becomes unwholesome action if we put it into action. Then once we put it into action, then it becomes a quality. It will become part of our qualities. I will explain about these qualities today, later. So wholesome is kusal, unwholesome is akusal. Wholesome action is kusala karma, unwholesome action is akusala karma. You will find these terms in the Tripitaka. Then you have punya karma and papa karma. Punya karma means in English we call them merits, and papa karma we call them sins. When you do wholesome deeds, the positive energy that you earn is a punya karma. It's like depositing money in the bank. Similarly, when you do akusala karma, the negative energy that you earn and accumulate is called papa karma. So these four things, some people have mixed up. It's very important to understand these four things clearly and the difference between them. So let's analyze them in little detail today. Once you have understood this, you know, it's a lot easier to understand correct Buddha Dhamma. Now, in Buddha Dhamma, you see, Lord Buddha has explained Buddha Dhamma in the Gatha in a nutshell. It says, Sabba papassa karanang kusalassa upasampada sachitta pariyodapanang etang Buddha anusasanang. Sabba papassa karanang means eradicate all unwholesome thoughts, unwholesome deeds, and unwholesome qualities. Kusalasa upasampada, practice, accumulate, cultivate, and accumulate wholesome thoughts, wholesome deeds, and wholesome qualities. First, we start with a thought, then we put it into action. When we put it into action, it becomes a quality. Now, this is one thing some people find it difficult to understand. I will try my best to explain and make sure that everyone understands exactly what it means by taking some examples. What is thought, what is action, and what is quality? So wholesome, we have wholesome thoughts, wholesome action, wholesome quality. Unwholesome also, we have unwholesome thoughts, unwholesome action, and unwholesome quality. Then to understand this, we'll take it one step further. Lord Buddha said that the physical body that we all have, one can see from outside, he called it Karjakaya. In Magadhi language, you will see in the Tripitaka, it's called Karjakaya. And then Lord Buddha said, inside this Karjakaya, there's another body called, another body that we cannot see, and Lord Buddha called it Manomaya Kaya. In English, they call it astral body. You must have heard of astral travel. So Lord Buddha said, when we die, our physical body will die. And also our mind will die. What will remain and travel to the next birth is our astral body. And in this astral body, there's a storage facility. Lord Buddha called it Chitta Santana. Now, this storage facility stores several things. Now, for easy understanding, let's say this storage facility have 5 boxes. Now, box number 1 has unwholesome qualities. Now, earlier I mentioned wholesome action, wholesome deeds. Now, here I'm saying wholesome qualities. The qualities one has accumulated by having wholesome thoughts and wholesome action, wholesome qualities in box number 1. Box number 2, let's say unwholesome qualities. So to build up this unwholesome quality, that person throughout his samsara have had unwholesome thoughts and unwholesome action. Action can be mentally, physically, or verbally. The moment you have unwholesome thought, you're also committing an action. Remember that also. These things happen within a fraction of a second. A thought becomes an action. So box number 2 have all the unwholesome qualities that we have accumulated throughout our samsara. Now, in the box number 1, we have wholesome qualities. What are the wholesome qualities? Wholesome qualities are Maitri quality, Karuna quality, Mudita quality, and Upeka quality. Right? Everyone has these qualities to a lesser or greater extent. A Pruthakjana person will have very little. Arahat person will have 100% of wholesome qualities, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, and the Arahat person will not have any unwholesome qualities in box number 2. And the Pruthakjana people will have more than 50% of unwholesome qualities. Unwholesome qualities are Raga, Dvesha, Moha. So there are only 3 unwholesome qualities, Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Only 4 wholesome qualities, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. So the Arahat person will have 100% of wholesome qualities, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka in box number 1. And his box number 2 is empty. There are no unwholesome qualities. And the Pruthakjana person will have very little or less than 50%. I would say, when I say less than 50%, it could be very, very low, depending on their wisdom, depending on their practices and so on. And they will have more than 50% unwholesome qualities and less than 50% wholesome qualities. And the Sotapanna person will have, in the box number 1, he will have more than 50% of wholesome qualities. And in box number 2, his unwholesome qualities are less than 50%. So the moment he becomes Sotapanna, his wholesome qualities will be higher than the unwholesome qualities. And as he proceeds after becoming Sotapanna through the Noble Eightfold Path, his unwholesome qualities will gradually get more and more deteriorated. Raga, Desha, Moha will go down. And his wholesome qualities, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, will improve and get more and more stronger. Hope it is clear to you now. So remember again, earlier I mentioned wholesome thoughts, wholesome action, and wholesome qualities. So box number 1 has wholesome qualities. Now let's think of wholesome thought. Everything starts with a thought. Manopubbangama Dhamma Manosetta Manomaya. Manasache pasannena basativa karotiva tatonan sukha mangveti chayava anapai. The second verse in the Dhammapada. It says Manopubbangama Dhamma Manosetta Manomaya. Every action that we take begins with a thought. Manasache pasannena. If we start with the wholesome thought, our action, our qualities will be wholesome, our action will be wholesome. Any wholesome action that we take will produce punya karma, and that will follow us like the shadow that will follow a person's shadow that will follow his body. So when we have wholesome, when we construct a thought, wholesome thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, we start with the thought. Now, before we have the thought in our mind, first we have to construct the thought. And that is called Chetana. Chetana means, Sinhala people will understand, those who understand Sinhala. Chetana means, Che means Chitta, Tana means constructing. Chetana, constructing a thought, constructing a thought. So Chetana means it could be Sanchetana or just a Chetana, which is the Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka Chetana. The word Sang is used for anything that relates to Raga, Dvesha, Moha. So if it is an unwholesome thought, it's a Sanchetana. The person will construct the thought with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Now, I will describe Raga, Dvesha, Moha in more detail because it's very, very important. A lot of people find it difficult to differentiate between Raga, Dvesha, Moha thoughts and Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka thoughts. Raga, Dvesha, Moha thoughts are unwholesome thoughts. Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka are wholesome thoughts. Now, these things are not easy to explain, but I will try my best. I haven't seen anyone on the internet who explains these things in detail, neither in Sinhala nor in English, because it's not easy to explain these things. And one has to have a very clear understanding. So I will try my best to explain them and the difference between these things. So first thing is Manopabangama Dhamma Manusetta Manomaya. So we construct the thought with Manasache Pasannena. If we construct the thought with Maitri Karuna Mudita Upeka, Pasannena means good, prasanna, in other words, wholesome. So if our thought is constructed with Maitri Karuna Mudita Upeka, then we will end up doing wholesome action and wholesome results. The results of the wholesome action will be, we will accumulate punya karma. And that punya karma will be stored in box number 3. Remember, I said there are 5 boxes. So every time when we have a wholesome action, whether it's mentally, verbally, or physically, it will earn us punya karma, merits. And that will be stored in box number 3. It's like money in the bank. On the other hand, if the thoughts are constructed with raga desha moha, the first verse in the Dhammapada, Manopabangama Dhamma Manosecca Manomaya, Manasache Paduttena, instead of Pasannena, here we say Manasache Paduttena, Basativa Karotiva, Tatonam Dukkha Mangveti, Chakkangva Vahato Padam. Now, this is very interesting, this gatha. It says, Manopabangama Dhamma Manosetta Manomaya Manasache Paduttena. If we construct a thought with unwholesome qualities, raga, dvesha, moha, our action will be unwholesome and it will produce Manasache Paduttena Basativa Karotiva Tatonang Dukkha Mangveti. It will give us, it will accumulate us sins which will cause us dukkha. Dukkha Mangveti, Chakkangva Vahato Padam. Now this is where it's explained beautifully, and it's terrifying if you think about it. Chakkangva Vahato Padam. The unwholesome, the akusala karma, papa karma that we accumulate in our box 4, it says Chakkangva Vahato Padam. It will come after us, just like the wheel of a cart that follows the bull who pulls the cart. Just think about it. They are very profound statements. Basically, what it means is, in simple terms, if we have an unwholesome thoughts, the thought is an action actually. If we have an unwholesome thought, that also produces an unwholesome action even for a moment, because we do unwholesome action mentally, physically, or verbally. So the moment we have an unwholesome thought, it becomes an action also, and that produces sins, papa karma, and that will come after us no matter what, and it will give us bad results that will cause us suffering. So it's very, very important to understand these things, So these are explained beautifully by Lord Buddha, and perhaps my explanations cannot be as even 10% as good as the explanations of a Samma Sambuddha. I'm trying my best to explain, but I hope you will understand. If you think about it, you will understand. There's no rocket science here. Anyone with average intelligence and average wisdom can understand these things. All you have to do is listen to it, learn it, and then think about it. Yoniso manasikara, the thing going over and over it, using your intelligence and wisdom. That is what is important. That will help you to comprehend the correct meanings of these Dhamma words. So coming back to Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeka, and Raga, Dvesha, Moha. So how would the person create a thought construct a thought with Maitri Karuna Mudita Upeka or with Raga Dvesha Moha. Now, this is where the difference begins. One has to understand. Because in meditation, what we do is we take in wholesome thoughts and put out unwholesome thoughts. Anapana. Anapana does not mean breathing in, breathing out. Anapana means, ana means take in wholesome thoughts. Pana means put out unwholesome thoughts. So in order to do that, we must know what is a wholesome thought and what is an unwholesome thought. It's very, very important. So how do we distinguish this? How do we identify what is unwholesome and what is wholesome? Now you have to look at this way. Now, if you are constructing a thought, and the end result of that thought will help you to continue this samsara in these 31 planes. For example, if a person is going to work and the intention of going to work is to earn money and live a good life in this world, you know. So that thought will help that person to continue his life in this samsara, the 31 planes, but it has no intention. That thought will not help him to get out of these 31 planes and go to Nibbana. So that thought has been constructed with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. On the other hand, another person goes to the same company to do the same job, and he understands Dhamma, his intention, whether he's Sotapanna or not, he understands Dhamma, and he may have comprehended it or not, he understands it, and he's trying to become Sotapanna, or trying to go beyond that. And his intention of working is to earn a living for the purpose of living in this world to complete his path. That is his main objective, final target. If you have comprehended Dhamma, and if you are in the Sotapanna marga and close to become Sotapanna, you can analyze your mind and see, why do you work? Why do you live? What is the purpose of your life? If the purpose of your life is to enjoy as much as possible, that means you are still constructing thought with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Your Raga, Dvesha, Moha qualities are higher than the Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, wholesome qualities. On the other hand, if your thinking has changed and always you think, I do everything to accumulate wholesome needs and merits and practice my path to Nibbana, my final target is Nibbana, then you have started to think with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. Either you are Sotapanna or you are close to become Sotapanna. So always remember, constructing the thought is the most important thing, the very, very beginning of the whole process, constructing the thought. Chetana, Chittaya Tananoa, in Sinhala we say Chittaya Tananoa, Chetana. In Magadhi language says Chetana. Chetana means Chitta, Tana means constructing. So it's very, very important to identify that initial point, whether you are constructing the thought with Raga, Dvesha, Moha or Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. So once you have learned that, once you have learned to identify that, then the rest of the process becomes easier, right? So when you are meditating, every time when the unwholesome thought comes to your mind, you will put it out. You will start practicing your meditation, firstly 5 minutes a day, then 10 minutes a day. Gradually, you increase the time. Eventually, you will be able to, more than 50% of the time during the day, you will be able to analyze your thoughts that comes to your mind and see whether they are wholesome thoughts or unwholesome thoughts. And if it is unwholesome, you will put it out. If it is wholesome, you will take it in. So once you come to that level, you are Sotapanna, right? Most of the time you will do that. More than 50% of the time you will do that. And then you have become Sotapanna. And if you are doing it, let's say about, in generally speaking, about 40% of the time, you are close to it, right? Even if you are doing it 10% of the time and you are aware of it, you are intentionally doing it, you have learned Dhamma, then you are in the Sotapanna Marga. And if you have no idea and if you don't care about wholesome thoughts and unwholesome thoughts, then that person is the Pratyajana. He doesn't know anything about wholesome thoughts and unwholesome thoughts. Thoughts are the most important thing. That paves the way for us to either go to a better place after this life or go to a worse place. You see, in the Chutta Sutra, which I have explained in detail in my series, in the Sotapanna series, I'm not going to explain it here in detail. I will just briefly explain. In the Chutta Sutra, Lord Buddha, before Lord Buddha delivers the Chutta Sutra, he takes a little bit of earth into his hand from the ground, and he asks his disciples to compare the amount of soil in my hand with the amount of soil on the ground is incomparable. You see, what Lord Buddha had in his hand is less than 1% of 1% of 1%, and the amount of soil on the ground was huge. So he said, after death, only a percentage, only a proportion of people equivalent to the soil in my hand will go to a better place, and all the others will go to a worse place. Because the people who go to the better place are the Sotapanna people, because in the moment of death, last moment, they can have Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka thoughts in their mind, wholesome thoughts. Only a Sotapanna or higher person can do that. All the others will have Raga, Dvesha, Moha thoughts. When I say all the others, 99.99999% of them will have Raga, Dvesha, Moha thoughts. But those who are close to Sotapanna, some of them may get wholesome thoughts and come back to the human world, but some of them also get unwholesome thoughts and go back to the four hells. And all the others, more than 99.999% people who haven't even come to the Sotapanna path, and their next port of call is the four hells, guaranteed, according to Lord Buddha's Dhamma. Whether you want to believe it or not, it's up to you, right? But if you learn this Dhamma and think about it deeper, you will see how it works scientifically. It's true. It's the science of this universe. Lord Buddha is not discovering a magic. He is explaining how this universe works. That's the way this universe works. Only a Samma Sambuddha can develop his wisdom to the highest level and understand how the universe works. So what he understood is explaining to us what we need to know. He's not explaining everything to the human beings. He's not explaining everything to anyone. All he's doing is he's explaining to people, explaining to the human beings what they need to know. Once Lord Buddha was traveling through a forest, through a jungle actually, bigger than a forest, with his disciples. He picked up 4 leaves from a tree, showed it to his disciples and said, the amount of Dhamma that I comprehended, Dhamma is the universal laws. He comprehended all of them, all the universal laws. He said, the amount of Dhamma that I comprehended is more than the total number of leaves in this forest. But the amount of Dhamma that I'm explaining to human beings are equal to these four leaves, and I call them the 4 noble truths. Noble truth of suffering, reason for suffering, out of suffering, and the way out of suffering. So that's what he said. So that's all we have to do. We have to learn. There's no rocket science. It's simple common sense. If you sit down and think about it, as Lord Buddha said, if you do yoniso manasikara, first you learn Dhamma, he called it janato, then comprehending is passato, the word that he used. To make it passato, what you have already made janato, if you want to make it passato, then you have to think about it, go through it over and over again, analyze it, and see how this logically works, And so that analysis process, Lord Buddha called it yoniso manasikara. He said there are 4 things one has to do in order to become Sotapanna. First one is Kalyana Mitra. You associate a person who can explain you the correct Dhamma that will help you to eradicate Raga, Desha, Moha. Kalyana means, Kal means cutting off Klesha. Klesha is Raga, Desha, Moha. So associate a person who can explain you the correct Dhamma, and then learn the correct Dhamma explained by that person. Then the third one is Yoniso Manasikara. You go through it over and over again and comprehend it. Then you will be able to get a vision of it, how it works. And in order to do that, you have to do the Dhamma Patipada, which is the meditation part, Sila and Samadhi, which will improve your wisdom. Sila is the discipline, and Samadhi is the meditation. Here you have to practice only the Samatha meditation, Anapanasati Samadhi meditation. In a very simple way, you learn to practice the process where it will help you to take in wholesome thoughts and eradicate unwholesome thoughts. Excuse me one moment. So these are the excuse me, little Dhamma points. Excuse me. I have been having this cough for the past 2 years. It comes and goes from time to time. Give me one moment, please. These are the important Dhamma terms one has to really understand in order to comprehend Dhamma. There's no rocket science. I keep repeating that. It's simple common sense. So let's look at this Chitta Santana again and the 5 boxes. So the box 1 has the wholesome qualities one accumulates by doing wholesome deeds. So first, a person will have a wholesome thought, constructing a thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, which means a thought that helps him to get out of these 31 planes and go to Nibbana. So the moment he has a constructed thought with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, it also becomes an action. If he has the thought in his mind, if he develops that thought in his mind, it becomes an action. And also the action can be mentally, physically, or verbally. And once he puts into action, then he is accumulating wholesome qualities. In other words, the qualities, wholesome qualities, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka, qualities that he has in his box 1 will get stronger and stronger and stronger. So that's what we do in meditation. You see, we keep maintaining, practicing, cultivating wholesome thoughts in our mind, which will make our wholesome qualities in box 1 stronger, stronger, and stronger. That is one of the main purposes of meditation. Whatever the meditation technique that we practice, Lord Buddha has given 4 main meditation techniques in the Mahasatra Satipatthana Sutra. Metta-anusati, that's loving kindness meditation. Asubha-anusati, Marana-anusati, and the Buddha-anusati. So at Sotapanna level, we only have to practice the Metta-anusati, loving kindness meditation, or Metta Bhavana. And that's all we need to know. And that's Anapanasati Samadhi meditation, which I'm explaining in more detail in the Sotapanna series. But you can see where Lord Buddha has explained it. If you take the Majjhima Nikaya in the Tripitaka, Majjhima Nikaya part 1, Sutra number 19, Dveda Vitakka Sutra. In that sutra, Lord Buddha explains how he, just before he attained Buddhahood, how he discovered the Anapana meditation technique, how he practiced it, cultivating wholesome thoughts and eradicating unwholesome thoughts. And by doing that, how he managed to improve his wisdom to the highest level and comprehend the Dhamma, comprehend how this universe works, and attain Samma Sambuddhahood. It's a very short sutra, about 3.5 pages, you can see, and there it's clearly given. So there's no breathing involved, breathing in, breathing out. That's a Hindu and Hindu and Brahmin meditation technique that existed long before Lord Buddha. It was always there. So the breathing in, breathing out is not Buddhist Anapanasati Samadhi meditation. Buddhist Anapanasati Samadhi meditation is taking in wholesome thoughts, putting out unwholesome thoughts. So when you cultivate wholesome thoughts in your mind, your wholesome qualities will get stronger and stronger and stronger. The idea is you will develop your wholesome qualities to the highest possible level and try and eradicate gradually the unwholesome qualities, raga, dvesha, moha qualities, eradicate little by little. So once you have eradicated raga, dvesha, moha qualities completely and empty that box number 2 and fill your box number with Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka qualities, that means you are Arhat. Arhat person has only wholesome qualities and no unwholesome qualities. Others are in between. Sotapanna person will have more than 50% wholesome and less than 50% unwholesome. So more than 50% of his thoughts will be wholesome and less than 50% will be unwholesome. Sotapanna person is not perfect. He's also committing unwholesome thoughts and sins, but he will not be committing big sins that will take him to the 4 hells. There will be small ones. When once he realizes it, he will do various, certain things like asking for forgiveness, transferring merits and wishing them well, and try and eradicate those sins that he is earning by, cultivating unwholesome thoughts. But he'll be aware of it most of the time before he thinks about something, before he takes action, especially before he takes action, he will think several times as to whether this action is whether it's going to help my path to Nibbana and others' path to Nibbana. If the answer is yes, he will do it. If the answer is no, he will not do it. So let me go further into this 5 boxes. So box number 1 has wholesome qualities. Box number 2 has unwholesome qualities. So wholesome qualities are Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. Unwholesome qualities are Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Then box number 3 has the merits, the punya karma that we have accumulated by practicing wholesome qualities or committing wholesome deeds. Box number 4 will have the papa karma, sins that we have accumulated by practicing unwholesome deeds. So it's not difficult to understand. Think about it, right? It took me a while to understand. I didn't understand it straight away. And I heard explanations from different people, but I didn't understand. Finally, I was fortunate enough to meet Arhat monks, and when they explained only, I understood it correctly. But it's not difficult, it's just that because we are not used to think that way, we haven't heard these things before. And, psychologically, we have made to believe that these things are difficult to understand. Our mind finds it a little difficult. It's a psychological barrier that we have. But they are not really difficult. If you really think about it, it won't take you long to understand. So these 4 boxes are very, very important. And the 5th box has all the past memories, all the things that we have done for the past trillions and trillions of lives, things that we have done, we have learned, the knowledge that we gathered, it's all there. It's just that we don't have the retrieving power to take it out in computer language. We don't have the retreating power. But the Tripitaka says an anagami person can go back to 200 lives, 200 previous lives, and retrieve the information, the knowledge that he had in those 200 previous lives. So these 5 boxes, very important to understand. I keep repeating it. So inside our physical body, Karjakaya, we have the Manomaya, which is the astral body in English language. And this astral body or the Manomaya has a storage facility called Chitta Santana. And this Chitta Santana has 5 main boxes. And the first one has wholesome qualities. Second one has unwholesome qualities. Third one has the merits, the punya karma that we have accumulated. And the fourth one has the papa karma, the sins that we have accumulated. Now, if one thinks, if you can see these in physical terms, no, you can't. These are all energies, right? Positive energies and negative energies. Everything is energy, right? Everything in the universe is made up of 6 energies. The energies are called Apo, Tejo, Vayo, Patavi, Akasa, Vijnana. We can't see them. We can't see energies, right? Don't worry about those technical things, You don't have to worry about that. Just say they are energies and we can't see. And this is how it works. What is important is for us to learn how to eradicate Raga Desha Moha and how to develop Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekka. As our Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekka, in other words, wholesome qualities go up and the unwholesome qualities, Raga Desha Moha qualities go down, our wisdom will start to improve. Wisdom will improve more and more, and we will see things, we will understand things what we didn't understand before. What do we understand? We understand the truth about this universe, how this universe works. So I think we have completed almost 1 hour. I will stop there and give you time to ask any questions. Ask any question from anywhere. And if they're up to Sotapanna level, I will explain. Otherwise, I will say, sorry, this is beyond Sotapanna. We don't need to learn all this, but I will give a simple explanation as to why we don't need to learn them. So please feel free to ask any question, because before you go to Sotapanna series, it's important that you have the confidence of you understand the basics, right? You couldn't have any doubts in your mind. Whatever the basic Buddha Dhamma that you know, you must be confident that you know it, you have comprehended, and you are prepared to embark on the main journey, which is the Sotapanna path, which we are going to start in first week of October. So feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Good evening, Bhanteji. Vandami, Bhanteji.
Now, Jai Bhim, is that Archana?
Yes, Bhanteji. My name is
Hello,
Archana.